I dropped my bags and froze. The lights were on in my supposedly empty lake cabin. This was not how things were supposed to be. I had bought this cabin to escape, to have peace, to find a little quiet after years of city noise and HOA harassment. I'd spent months dealing with paperwork, dealing with agents, and most annoyingly, dealing with the so-called neighborhood watch, especially a woman named Karen, the self-appointed president of an HOA that technically had no legal authority over my land. Still, she acted like she ran the whole lakefront. From the first day I came to check out the property, she had shown up at the gate, arms crossed, face tight, lecturing me about community rules, how outsiders didn't understand the harmony of lake life, and how this area had expectations. I had smiled, said nothing, and bought the property anyway, fair and square. And to be crystal clear, my cabin was outside the HOA boundary. I'd made sure of that before I signed anything. I was free from their rules, their fees, and their passive-aggressive newsletters. Or so I thought. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I had told no one I was coming back early. The original plan was to arrive next weekend, stock the cabin, and finally spend a week in solitude. But plans change. Work wrapped up early, and I thought, why not surprise myself with a few extra days of calm? No email. No noise. Just me, my books, and the lake breeze. But here I was, standing on the gravel path, watching warm yellow light glow through my windows. My cabin. A place that should have been locked, dark, and empty. I instinctively turned off my truck's engine and lights. I didn't know why, maybe it was instinct. Maybe something didn't feel right. I stepped out quietly and approached the porch like I was in some suspense movie. My boots crunched softly over the gravel. A smell of burning wood floated through the air. Someone had lit the fireplace. I tried the door. Locked. Now that was strange. I had locked it when I left, sure, but the fact that it was locked again now meant someone was inside, and they wanted to keep it that way. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my master key, the only one, as far as I knew. Heart thudding, I slid the key in and turned. A soft click. I pushed the door slowly open, unsure what I'd find. A raccoon? A squatter? Some teenagers partying? What I found was much stranger. Standing in the living room, my living room, was a woman. Mid-30s, in yoga pants and a hoodie, holding a mug of something steaming. Wrapped in my blanket. Her eyes widened in shock as she saw me. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, as if I was the intruder. I blinked. "Excuse me? This is my cabin." She stared at me like I was speaking Martian. "Karen told me you weren't coming back until next week. She said it was fine if I stayed." I took a step forward, suddenly very aware of how surreal this situation was. A complete stranger was sipping cocoa in my cabin, acting as if I had barged into her weekend plans. I glanced around. The place looked lived in. Her bag was on the armchair. There was food on the kitchen counter. Shoes by the back door. She'd made herself at home. "Okay, stop," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Who are you, and what are you doing here? You say Karen let you in? Karen from the HOA?" She nodded, looking a little unsure now. "Yeah. She said she was the community manager for this place. She said you were out of town and renting it out while you were gone." I stared at her for a full 5 seconds, stunned. "She what?" She gave me the keys, showed me some listing online, even signed some rental form. I paid her through some app. I assumed it was legit. "She lives just down the road, right?" "Yes." She did. In that big blue house with the overly trimmed hedges and 4 HOA proud signs on the lawn. I took a slow breath. "Look, I don't know what Karen told you, but she doesn't manage this property. This cabin belongs to me, legally. I never rented it out. I never gave her keys. And I certainly didn't give permission for anyone to stay here. The woman, who I later learned was named Lana, paled visibly. She clutched her mug tighter and sat down on the couch. I don't understand. She seemed so official. Had documents. Signed papers. I even gave her a security deposit. Yeah, well, you're not the only one she's fooled, I said bitterly. Karen's been trying to get me to join the HOA ever since I bought this place. I told her no. This cabin is outside of the HOA boundary, and I have legal proof. She didn't like that. Suddenly the back screen door creaked open. Heavy footsteps. I turned quickly, ready for anything. And there she was. Karen herself, stepping onto my porch like she owned the world. She was holding a clipboard. She wore a smug expression. And without even greeting me, she said, "I knew you'd overreact." The gall of this woman. "Karen," I said slowly, stepping out to meet her. "What did you do?" She sniffed. "I did what any responsible community member would do. That cabin has been sitting empty for weeks. Our neighborhood has an image to maintain. Lana needed a weekend away, and you clearly didn't mind. You weren't even here." I blinked in disbelief. "That's your justification? You rented out my cabin, without permission, to a stranger, because you didn't like it being empty?" "You're overreacting," she said again, waving her hand dismissively. "It's just temporary. Think of it as contributing to the community." "Karen," I said through clenched teeth, "you broke into my property, gave access to someone without my consent, and lied about managing it. That's not community spirit, that's illegal." "Oh please," she said, reaching for her phone. "If you're going to be difficult, maybe it's time we let the authorities settle this." Then she dialed 911 and told the operator that a man was breaking into a cabin and threatening a guest. I couldn't believe it. Karen had just called the cops, on me. Karen stood on my porch like she was the sheriff of the entire lake. Her arms were crossed tightly, her chin lifted like she had just done a public service, and she was staring at me like I was the criminal. Meanwhile, inside my own cabin, Lana was pacing nervously with her phone in her hand, still confused, still thinking maybe some part of this was a misunderstanding. But I wasn't confused. I was furious. I turned to Karen and said, "You just called the cops on the owner of the property. Are you serious?" She didn't blink. I told them the truth. "You showed up unexpectedly and started threatening a guest. You're unstable." Unstable? The only unstable thing here was Karen's grasp on reality. "You gave someone access to my house, Karen. You broke the law." "I gave access to a member of our community who needed a place to stay and didn't want to overpay for hotels," she said with that signature fake smile she always wore at HOA meetings. "I did her a favor. I did you a favor too. It's not like you were using the cabin. That's not your decision to make." I shouted. "You don't own this property, and you don't have any legal right to manage it." But she was already walking away toward her house. "I'll let the police handle this. Maybe then you'll learn how to follow the rules." Rules? Karen had no idea what rules meant. I went back inside, where Lana was still clearly shaken. I explained again, more calmly this time, that she had been tricked, lied to by Karen. I showed her the property deed on my phone, the title with my name on it, and the email confirmations from my realtor. She stared at it all like someone slowly waking up from a bad dream. "Karen told me this was part of the HOA program," she said. "She said they manage some of the cabins here for community members and guests." "She lied," I said. "This cabin is 100% private. No HOA. No rental program. And you've been scammed." She sat down heavily on the couch. I don't even know what to say. I paid her a lot of money. I even gave her a cash deposit yesterday. That got my attention. Cash? Yeah. She said it would help avoid the community processing fee. Oh, Karen. She wasn't just interfering, she was profiting from it. We didn't have much time to talk after that. A pair of headlights cut through the cabin windows, and a few seconds later, there was a loud knock at the front door. I opened it to find a local sheriff's deputy standing on the porch. He was middle-aged, broad-shouldered, and looked like he'd seen his fair share of HOA drama in this lake town. "Evening," he said. "Got a call about a possible break-in and disturbance?" "Yes, officer," I said calmly. "I'm the property owner. My name's Daniel Carter. I came back early to my cabin and found this woman inside. She was let in by a neighbor, Karen Bennett, who falsely claimed to manage this place. She does not. I have proof." I handed him my license, my property deed, printed and digital. And recent utility bills with my name and this address. He studied them quietly. Karen appeared behind him, arms still crossed, talking over her shoulder. "Don't let him fool you. He's not cooperating with the HOA, and he's been difficult since day one. This is a community matter." The deputy raised an eyebrow at her. "Ma'am, unless you have documentation showing you own or lease this property, I suggest you stay quiet while I assess the situation." Karen looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Lana stepped forward, nervously wringing her hands. "Officer, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought everything was legal. She showed me listings, she had papers. I trusted her." The deputy nodded slowly. "And you've been staying here since when?" "Yesterday," Lana said. "She gave me the key. I paid her. I didn't realize." "It's okay," he said. "You're not in trouble, you've been misled. But this is private property. You'll need to pack your things and leave tonight." Lana nodded quickly. "Yes, of course. I'm sorry." I appreciated how respectful she was. She was just as much a victim as me. Karen, on the other hand, was still fuming. "You're just going to believe him," she snapped. "What about the community standards? The HOA bylaws?" "There's no HOA jurisdiction here," the deputy said, firm now. "This property is not within any HOA boundary, and you have no authority here. If you entered this property or used keys without consent, that's trespassing. If you charged someone to stay here, that's fraud." Karen opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but then thought better of it. "Ma'am," the deputy continued, "I'd advise you to return home. If you interfere with this property again, we'll be opening a criminal investigation." I watched her shoulders drop, her confidence deflate like a popped balloon. She turned without another word and stormed back toward her home, practically shaking with rage. The deputy turned to me. "Do you want to press charges?" "Not yet," I said. "I want her out of my life first. But I'll file a full report tomorrow." "Good call," he said. "Get cameras, if you don't have them already." Lana packed her things in silence. Before she left, she turned to me one last time. "I'm really sorry. I should have checked deeper. I just trusted her." "It's not your fault," I said. "Karen plays a long game. She's been trying to control this cabin from the moment I bought it." Lana gave me a sad smile. "Well, if you ever do rent it out, legally, I'd still love to come back." I smiled back. "I'll keep your name on the list." She left that night, headlights disappearing into the dark. I locked the door behind her, double-checked every window, and stood in the center of my living room, finally alone, finally aware of just how far Karen was willing to go. She had crossed a line. And I was ready to make sure she never crossed it again. The next morning, I woke up early, not because I wanted to, but because my mind wouldn't let me rest. The nerve of Karen still echoed in my head. She hadn't just violated my privacy, she'd rented out my home like it was some community Airbnb. Worse, she'd profited off it, lied to an innocent woman, and then had the audacity to call the cops on me. I brewed a strong cup of coffee and sat at the cabin's front steps, staring out at the lake. Mist floated gently above the water's surface. The air was calm. But inside, I was boiling. I wasn't someone who looked for drama, but I wasn't about to let this go. Not this time. By 9:30 a.m., I was pulling into the sheriff's department with a manila folder in my hand. Inside was everything: the property deed, security camera footage from my trail cam that showed Karen on the porch 2 nights earlier, screenshots of messages Lana had shown me from Karen, and the forged rental agreement she'd been handed. The deputy from the night before, Officer Riley, greeted me with a nod as I walked in. "Morning. Back already?" I nodded. "I'm filing formal charges. Karen Bennett committed trespass, fraud, and impersonation of a property manager. I want this on the record." He waved me into an office and took his time reviewing everything. The moment he saw the fake rental form with Karen's signature, he shook his head. "This looks like a pattern," he said. "You're not the first one." I blinked. "Wait, what do you mean?" "We've had a few complaints like this over the years," he explained. "Never with this much evidence, though. Some lake property owners mentioned her interfering with renters, trying to collect maintenance fees or locking people out during short stays. But no one ever followed through. She's clever, always just enough wiggle room to dodge consequences." "Well, this time, I've got her cold," I said. He agreed. "We'll open an investigation. This is serious now." I thanked him and left. A weight lifted off my shoulders. I wasn't just going to sit back and hope she'd stop, I was putting an end to this. But Karen wasn't done yet. When I got back to my cabin, I noticed something different. A note, taped to the front door. It was written in all caps marker. "If you won't respect the HOA won't respect you. You are not welcome here. This is your final warning." I stood there staring at the paper, my jaw tight. The irony was unbelievable. I wasn't part of the HOA. My property was legally excluded. She just couldn't handle the fact that I wasn't under her thumb. I took the note down and photographed it. I wasn't scared, I was documenting everything now. By noon, I was installing a new smart security system, full cameras, and remote locks. I even added a few private property, trespassers will be prosecuted signs around the edges of the land. No ambiguity. No loopholes. Then I drove to the county records office to get certified copies of all my documents, every inch of my property map, everything showing I was outside the HOA bounds. I wanted it ready in case she tried anything else. And of course, she did. That evening, just before sunset, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered cautiously. "Hi, is this Daniel Carter?" a voice asked, polite but unsure. "Speaking," I replied. "This is Ben Jacobs. I'm a realtor based here in town. I was calling because Karen Bennett reached out to me about listing your cabin for a long-term lease. She said you were stepping away and authorized her to find a tenant." I sat down slowly. "She told you I wanted to rent out my cabin?" "Correct," he said. "She provided a form, looked odd, so I wanted to verify with you before moving forward. She listed herself as your acting property manager." I closed my eyes and let out a breath. "Ben, thank you for calling. That information is false. Karen is not my manager. She has no authority over my cabin. If she gives you any more documents, I suggest you forward them to the sheriff's department." I figured something was off, he said. She's tried to represent other properties before, but it always felt gray. Thanks for the clarification. The moment the call ended, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to Karen's house. She answered the door like she'd been expecting me. Come to apologize, she said, arms folded. Actually, I said, holding up my phone, I came to let you know that I've filed charges. And I just got a call from a realtor you tried to scam with a fake lease. This ends now, Karen. Stay off my property. Don't use my name. Don't use my home. The sheriff's office is building a case, and trust me, you've done enough to hang yourself with. Her smile twitched. You can't prove. I can. And I already have. I turned and walked away, ignoring the string of angry muttering behind me. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in days, knowing justice was coming. 2 weeks later, the full weight of justice came crashing down on Karen's carefully built fantasy world. It started with a call from Deputy Riley, the same officer who had first responded when Karen called 911 on me. She's been served, he said bluntly. Criminal charges for fraud, misrepresentation, and trespassing. And she's under investigation for previous incidents going back 3 years. Looks like she's been playing HOA Queen across half the county. I couldn't stop the grin that spread across my face. Took her long enough to fall. Riley chuckled. Honestly, we've been waiting for someone like you to step up and bring solid evidence. Most people were too scared or too tired to fight her. You gave us what we needed. It felt good. Better than good. For so long, Karen had intimidated, bullied, and manipulated everyone around her. She used HOA language like a weapon, wielding made-up rules and bogus warnings to insert herself into everyone's lives. And most people just let her do it. But now? She was facing real consequences. Later that same day, a local news crew came out to the lake after catching wind of the charges. Apparently, Karen wasn't just a neighborhood nuisance, she had scammed vacationers out of thousands of dollars by pretending to manage rental cabins she didn't own. Lana's complaint had triggered a flood of new victims. A couple from Chicago, a retired vet from Arizona, even a single mom with 2 kids, all tricked into staying at homes Karen had no right to access. It was bigger than just me. When the story aired that evening, I watched from the porch, laptop balanced on my knees, as Karen's mugshot flashed on the screen. Her face was pinched, furious, and pale under the fluorescent lighting. The anchor's voice calmly read through the list of charges, one after another. Fraud. Criminal trespass. Identity misrepresentation. Unlawful rental activity. The HOA board released a statement that same night. They claimed Karen had acted independently and violated the trust and ethics of the organization. They booted her off the board and said they would restructure to prevent future abuses of power. But it was too late for damage control. Everyone already knew the truth. The next morning, I woke up early and took a long walk around the lake trail. For the first time, people waved and smiled when they saw me. Not cautious smiles. Not awkward nods. Genuine, friendly waves. A neighbor named Carl, who lived 4 cabins down, jogged up beside me. "Hey Daniel," he said. "Heard the news. Glad someone finally stood up to her." I shrugged. Did what I had to. "Still," he said, slowing down, "most of us have been dealing with her for years. She tried to tell me I couldn't grill on my own porch once. Like I was some kid breaking curfew." We both laughed. "You thinking of staying long-term now?" he asked. I paused. That was the question I'd been turning over in my head all week. I'd originally bought the cabin as a weekend escape, but after everything that happened, and everything I'd seen, it felt like more than a getaway. It felt like home. And maybe, just maybe, I could help this community heal from the kind of control Karen had inflicted for years. Yeah, I said finally. I think I will. The rest of the summer rolled by like something out of a novel. The lake was calm, the weather warm, and the air finally free of drama. Karen's case went to court. She pleaded guilty to several charges and ended up with a massive fine, community service, and a county-wide no-contact order that banned her from any involvement with property management for 5 years. Even better, Lana got her money back. A judge ordered Karen to pay restitution to all the people she scammed, with interest. Lana emailed me the day she got her refund and simply wrote, she finally paid for her lies. A few weeks later, she visited again, not as a guest in hiding, but as a friend. We drank coffee on the porch, laughed about the insanity of it all, and started sketching out an idea, a real neighborhood support group. Not an HOA. Not a rule machine. Just a group of locals who helped one another, shared tools, warned each other about bad actors, and, most importantly, respected boundaries. We called it the Lake Watch Circle, and within a month, 18 property owners had joined. People brought food to meetings, offered to help build fences, shared firewood. It was the kind of community Karen had pretended to build, but without fear or manipulation. That fall, I sat by the fire in the very same living room where I had found Lana 2 months earlier. The same room Karen had invaded, trying to mark it as her territory. But now it was quiet. Peaceful. Mine. There were no fake rental contracts. No threats taped to the door. Just the sound of the wind in the trees and the soft crackle of logs burning. I looked out the window one last time and whispered to myself with a smile. Next time, Karen, pick a cabin that actually belongs to you. Because this one was no longer just a cabin. It was my stand. My win. And now, finally, my home.